The moment Tatenda unwrapped the silver box with the tiny red bow, her entire world was seconds away from exploding into a million irreparable pieces. It was Valentine's Day, and her boyfriend Goldenstein had been acting strange all week. Nervous. Excited. The kind of energy that screamed proposal. They'd been together for 3 years, lived together for 1, and everyone kept asking when they'd make it official. So when she tore off the wrapping paper and saw the Ancestry DNA kit inside, her heart didn't just sink. It plummeted straight through the floor. "I know it's not a ring," Goldenstein said quickly, his words tumbling out. "But I thought it would be fun. We could do it together. My results came back and I'm 12% Scandinavian. How insane is that?" Tatenda forced a smile that felt like it might crack her face in half. She'd never thought about her ancestry. Her parents were both from Ohio, boring and predictable, and she'd always assumed she was just generic American. But Goldenstein looked so hopeful that she swallowed her disappointment. "Okay," she said, kissing him. "Let's do it." 3 weeks later, the email arrived that would detonate her entire existence. Tatenda was alone, curled on the couch with her laptop and wine. Goldenstein was working late again, something that had been happening constantly. She clicked the link expecting colorful maps and harmless percentages. Irish. Maybe German. Perhaps something mildly exotic. Instead, she saw something that made her blood turn to ice. Close family, the screen read in bold letters. And there, listed as her biological father with a 99.8% confidence level, was a name that sent her heart into a violent tailspin. Donald Pritchard. Her hands started shaking so hard she nearly launched the laptop across the room. Her father's name was Robert Chen. She looked exactly like him. Everyone said so. Same dark hair, same sharp chin, same narrow eyes. This had to be a catastrophic mistake. Some kind of system glitch. It had to be. She scrolled frantically and her stomach dropped into an abyss. A half-sister named Jennifer Pritchard. Then another half-sibling. And another. And another. "No," she screamed at the empty apartment. "No, no, 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 no." She slammed the laptop shut like it had burst into flames and grabbed her phone with trembling fingers, dialing her mother's number. It rang once. Twice. 3 times. 4 times that felt like 4 years. "Tatenda. Sweetie, what's wrong? You sound..." "Mom, I need you to tell me the truth right now." Tatenda's voice cracked like breaking glass. "Am I adopted?" The silence on the other end lasted exactly 4 seconds. But it might as well have been 4 eternities. When her mother finally spoke, her voice was so small it was almost a whisper. "Who told you?" The room tilted violently. Tatenda actually grabbed the arm of the couch to keep from falling over. The walls felt like they were closing in. "Oh my God. Oh my God. So it's true? You're not my real mother?" "No. No, sweetheart, I am your mother. I carried you for 9 months. I gave birth to you. I am your mother. But your father..." Her mother's voice shattered into sobs. "Your father isn't Dad." Tatenda felt like someone had reached into her chest and ripped out her heart with bare hands. 26 years. 26 entire years of lies stacked on top of lies. How could you not tell me? How could you let me believe my whole life was real when it was just one giant lie? "It was complicated," her mother cried desperately. "Your dad and I were separated that year. We'd almost gotten divorced. I had a brief relationship with someone else, and when I got pregnant, your dad and I were trying to work things out. We decided to raise you together. We decided you were his daughter in every way that mattered. Except biology." Tatenda screamed so loud her throat burned. "Except the actual truth." She hung up before her mother could say another word. Her whole body was convulsing now, adrenaline flooding her system like poison. The father who'd taught her to ride a bike, who'd walked her down the aisle at her college graduation, who'd helped her move into this very apartment, wasn't her real father. And somewhere out there was a man named Donald Pritchard who had zero idea she existed. Or did he? Tatenda opened her laptop again with shaking hands and clicked on Donald Pritchard's profile. There was a photo. A man in his late 50s with kind eyes and the same dark hair she had, graying at the temples. The same chin. The same nose she saw in the mirror every single day. She was staring at a complete stranger who looked more like her than the man she'd called Dad her entire life. Her finger hovered over the message button. Then she clicked. "My name is Tatenda Chen," she typed, her hands trembling so violently she had to retype twice. "According to this DNA test, you're my biological father. Did you know about me?" She hit send before terror could stop her. The response came back in less than 10 minutes. "I had no idea. Your mother never told me. What's your mother's name?" Tatenda told him. His next message made her feel like she was drowning in quicksand. "We dated for 6 months in 1998. She told me she was single. Then one day she just disappeared. Changed her number. Moved. I tried to find her for years but couldn't. I never knew why she left. I definitely never knew about you." The front door opened. Goldenstein walked in looking exhausted, his tie loosened. "Hey babe, sorry I'm so late. Client emergency. Have you?" He stopped dead when he saw her face, tears streaming like rivers, eyes red and swollen. "What happened? Are you okay?" "The DNA test," Tatenda choked out, her voice barely human. "My dad isn't my dad." Goldenstein dropped his briefcase and it hit the floor with a crash. He rushed to her side, pulling her into his arms. "Oh my God. Tatenda, I'm so sorry. I never thought, if I'd known." "It's not your fault," she whispered against his chest. "You couldn't have known. Nobody knew except my mom. And she's been lying to everyone for 26 years. What are you going to do?" That was the question that felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. Tatenda looked at her laptop screen, at Donald Pritchard's kind face staring back at her. She had half-siblings she'd never met. A whole other family that existed in parallel to the one she'd grown up with. And her parents, the people who'd raised her, had built their entire relationship with her on a foundation made of lies and deception. "I don't know," she whispered. "I have no idea." Over the next week, Tatenda exchanged dozens of messages with Donald. He was a high school teacher in Colorado. Married for 20 years to a woman named Patricia. He had 3 other children, all younger than Tatenda. When she sent him her photo, he wrote back immediately. "You have my mother's eyes. She passed away 5 years ago. She would have absolutely loved to meet you." That hurt more than Tatenda expected. A grandmother she'd never know. A whole bloodline she'd been cut off from like a severed limb. Meanwhile, her mother called 17 times a day, leaving increasingly desperate voicemails that Tatenda deleted without listening. Her dad, Robert, the man who'd raised her, sent her a single text message that broke her heart into even smaller pieces than she thought possible. "You'll always be my daughter. Nothing changes that. I love you more than life itself." But everything had changed. Tatenda couldn't look at childhood photos anymore without feeling sick. Every family Christmas, every birthday party, every school play where her parents had sat in the front row beaming with pride, all of it was tainted now. Poisoned. Built on a lie her mother had told and her father had chosen to believe. Donald wanted to meet her. He offered to fly to her city, or she could come to Colorado. His other children were excited to meet their big sister. Patricia had welcomed the news with open arms. They seemed like good people. Normal people. The kind of family Tatenda had always thought she had until 3 weeks ago when a Valentine's Day gift ripped that illusion to shreds. Goldenstein was supportive but worried. "You don't have to rush into this," he said one night as they lay in bed. "Take your time. Process everything first." "I don't want to take my time," Tatenda said, her voice hard. "I've already lost 26 years with him." "But you haven't lost anything with your dad. With Robert. He raised you. He loves you. He lied to me." The words came out like venom. "He protected you," Goldenstein countered gently. "Right or wrong, he chose to be your father when he didn't have to be. That has to mean something." Tatenda knew he was right, but the anger was too fresh, too raw, too all-consuming. She'd agreed to meet Donald in 2 weeks. She'd also agreed, finally, to talk to her mother face to face. That conversation was scheduled for tomorrow, and Tatenda was dreading it more than anything she'd ever done in her life. When her mother arrived at the apartment, She looked like she'd aged 20 years in 2 weeks. Her eyes were puffy and bloodshot, her hair unwashed, her hands shaking as she sat down on the couch like she was afraid it might collapse beneath her. "I'm sorry," she said immediately, her voice cracking. "Tatenda, I'm so sorry. Why didn't you tell me?" Tatenda's voice was ice. "Did you ever plan to tell me, or were you just going to let me live in ignorance forever?" Her mother shook her head, tears already streaming. "I thought it was better if you didn't know. Your dad loved you so much. He never treated you any differently. I thought we were protecting you from unnecessary pain." "Unnecessary?" Tatenda laughed bitterly, the sound harsh and broken. "Finding out at 26 that my entire life is a lie is unnecessary pain. I made a mistake," her mother sobbed. "A terrible, horrible mistake. But you have to understand, your dad and I were broken up. What I did with Donald wasn't cheating. And when I found out I was pregnant, your dad wanted to try again. He wanted us to be a family. He chose to raise you as his own because he loved me and he already loved you. But I had a right to know." Tatenda was shouting now, her voice echoing off the walls. "Donald had a right to know. You took that away from both of us. You stole my chance to know my real father and you stole his chance to know his daughter." Her mother had no answer for that. She just sat there crying, and eventually Tatenda's anger cooled into something worse. Disappointment. The crushing realization that her mother wasn't the person she'd thought she was. None of them were. The conversation ended badly, with Tatenda asking her mother to leave and her mother begging for forgiveness Tatenda wasn't ready to give. That night, she lay awake staring at the ceiling while Goldenstein slept beside her. "I'm going to Colorado," she said into the darkness. "I know," Goldenstein replied, squeezing her hand. "I need to meet him. I need to know who I really am. I understand. I need to do this alone." Goldenstein swallowed hard, then nodded in the dark. "Okay." 3 weeks after opening that Valentine's Day gift, Tatenda found herself on a plane to Denver, about to meet the father she'd never known and the family she'd been kept from her entire life. As the plane took off, she looked out the window at the shrinking city below and wondered if she'd ever really feel like herself again. But somewhere between the clouds and the uncertainty, Tatenda realized something profound. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. Painful, confusing, absolutely terrifying, but still a beginning. She had questions that deserved answers. She had a family that wanted to know her. And she had a choice about what came next. The plane climbed higher into the sky, and Tatenda closed her eyes, ready to face whatever truth was waiting for her on the ground. When the plane touched down in Denver, Tatenda's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might explode. She moved through the terminal like she was walking through water, every step heavier than the last. Then she saw him. Donald stood near the arrival's gate, hands clasped in front of him, and when their eyes met, Tatenda's breath caught in her throat. He looked exactly like his photo. Exactly like her. The resemblance was so striking that several people walking past did double takes. "Tatenda?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Yes," she whispered. He opened his arms, not demanding, just offering. Tatenda hesitated for only a second before stepping into them. The hug was awkward at first, then it tightened, his hands trembling against her back. "I'm so sorry," he whispered. "I should have known. I should have looked harder for your mother." "You didn't know," Tatenda said, tears falling freely now. "None of this was your fault." They spent the afternoon talking over coffee, then dinner. Donald told her about his life, his teaching career, showed her photos of her half-siblings. They were nervous to meet her, he said, but incredibly excited. So was Patricia. "Your wife is really okay with this?" Tatenda asked. Donald nodded. "She said if she were in your position, she'd want answers too." Over the next few days, Tatenda met her half-siblings. There were tears and hugs and laughter that started tentative but grew easier. Her half-sister Jennifer cried when they met, holding on to Tatenda like she might disappear. Her brothers asked endless questions about her life. It was overwhelming and beautiful and strange. But every night, alone in the guest room, Tatenda felt a different ache. She missed her dad. Robert. On the fourth night, she called him. "Hey," he said softly. "I was hoping you'd call." "I'm in Colorado," she said. "I know. Your mom told me." Silence stretched between them. "How is it?" he asked. "It's a lot," Tatenda admitted. "They're kind. Welcoming. But it feels strange." "I imagine it would." Another pause, heavier this time. "I miss you," Tatenda said quietly, her voice breaking. Robert didn't answer right away. When he did, his voice was thick with emotion. "I miss you too, kiddo." The word made her chest tighten. "I don't know how to hold all of this," she confessed. "It feels like my life split in two, and I'm standing in the middle trying not to lose either side." "You don't have to choose," Robert said gently. "There's room for all of it. For all of who you are." When the call ended, Tatenda sat in the dark for a long time, letting his words sink in like rain into dry earth. On the flight home, she stared out the window as clouds passed beneath her. She thought about everything she'd learned. Everything she'd lost. Everything she'd gained. Goldenstein met her at the airport, pulling her into his arms. She held on to him like he was the only solid thing in her shifting world. "You okay?" he asked. "I don't know," she said honestly. "But I will be." In the weeks that followed, Tatenda began the slow, painful work of rebuilding. She met her mother again, not to forgive completely, but to understand. She continued talking to Donald and his family, learning how to exist in a space that had once been hidden. And she spent time with Robert, reclaiming the relationship she'd feared was broken forever. It wasn't easy. Some days the anger returned like a tidal wave. Some days the grief hit without warning. But little by little, piece by piece, the chaos softened into something manageable. Tatenda realized something she hadn't expected. The truth hadn't erased her past. It had expanded it. She hadn't lost a father. She'd discovered another. She hadn't lost her identity. She'd learned it was bigger and more complex than she'd ever imagined. The Valentine's Day gift that had shattered her world hadn't ended her story. It had rewritten the beginning. And as Tatenda stepped forward into her life, armed with answers, scars, and hard-won clarity, she understood that some truths arrive late, but they arrive for a reason. Because knowing who you are is always worth the pain it takes to get there. If this story hit you as hard as it hit Tatenda, smash that subscribe button right now and turn on notifications because we're bringing you more jaw-dropping, life-changing true stories every single week. Drop a comment below telling us what you would do in Tatenda's situation. Would you forgive your parents? Would you meet your biological father? We want to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that like button. Your support means absolutely everything to us.